All right, thank you. As I said before, I'm going to introduce our speakers now, all three of them, and I'll introduce them first, and then we'll roll right into Ryan's presentation. So Ryan Hill is our first speaker. He's the Chief Engineer in Design and Construction Department at Conrail, where he has worked for more than 15 years. He's responsible for delivering capital projects that improve Conrail's operational efficiency and throughput. His work focuses on civil engineering, aspects of planning, design, and construction, while also being responsible for managing other engineering and operational disciplines associated with these projects. Ryan has a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from Rutgers University and a master's degree in transportation management from the University of Denver. Our next speaker will be Keen Baranga, president of the Black River Railroad System. That's actually a role his grandfather, Nicholas Baranga, previously held. He began his railroad career in 1980 as a ticket agent for the Black River and Western Railroad and joined the railroad's management team as vice president and general manager in 1988. Today, Keene leads the day-to-day management team for the railroad's parent company, Chesapeake and Delaware. His areas of expertise include safety, train operation, real estate leases and occupations, track and way maintenance and rehabilitation, and managing cash flow. He has a bachelor's degree in business administration and finance from the University of Delaware. And our final speaker will be Bhavin Kapadia. Bhavin is a project manager at the New Jersey Department of Transportation with more than 16 years of experience at the agency. For the past 6 years, he's led the Office of Grants Management and serves as the lead engineer for the Rail Freight Assistance and Airport Improvement Programs. At any given time, he oversees a 100 million active project portfolio. He holds a bachelor's degree in civil engineering and has more than 20 years of experience in project management. Like I said, we're going to hold all questions till the end, and Jacob will manage the questions and be keeping track of them. You can post them in your chat box. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ryan for the first presentation. The floor is yours, Ryan, and thanks for being here.
All right. Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. Good afternoon, everyone. So, I have a presentation here. Covers numerous projects that Conrail has either in construction or planning in the North Jersey area and within our North Jersey operating territory. So before I dive into the details of each project, really an engineering update, I'll just say that, a lot of these projects that Conrail pursues are really meant to streamline our operation. And in North Jersey, one of the big hurdles we have is there's an interlocking called CP Fran that is at the north end of Port Newark and basically enters into our Oak Island yard. That is a very congested piece of railroad for Conrail. So as we go through these projects, I'll try to explain, how a lot of these projects really try to alleviate that congestion up in Oak Island Yard and CP Fran. So most of the projects that we'll see are driven to improve our operation and increase efficiency. Our point-no-point project really it needed to be done based on the condition of the existing bridge, but a lot of these projects really are meant to improve our operation, and I'll get into that as we go through the slides. So Jacob, you can hit the next slide. So our first project that I'll talk about, we call it our barb siding extension. This project takes place in Woodbridge and Perth Amboy, New Jersey. On the right here, we have a map, an aerial view. You'll see there's a red line and a green dash line. The red line is where we're extending the existing barb siding. We have multiple energy customers in the area. Buckeye, Motiva, Shell, all are supported by Conrail. And that support takes a lot of capacity and infrastructure on Conrail's end to be able to support all the cars that are delivered to their sites. So the green represents an existing siding of just over 3,200 feet. And the red shows the expansion which will take our siding up to 7,500 feet. The reason that is impactful is that these customers, particularly Motiva, They receive unit trains, which is essentially is a train of one single commodity, between 80 or 100 cars. The existing siding, that 3,200 feet, is not long enough to land that train next to the customer siding. So what Conrail needs to do is to take those cars and that train further north where we have sidings with sufficient capacity to hold those trains before the customer is ready to accept them, at which point we'll take them down. So with this siding, we'll be able to take those trains directly to the customer's location, freeing up capacity to the north, which will improve our operation. The less trains that you send north, the less trains have to traverse the main line, the more opportunity there is to get other traffic through the area. So right where you see the red and green line meet up there, we have, like I said, Motiva or Shell, they're just off to the right, and then Buckeye's just off to the left. And this is at the end of our Garden State secondary track, just before we get onto New Jersey Transit's coastline track at CP Wood. So we are extending it as far south as we can. And to the north, we have a busy grade crossing, Woodbridge Avenue, that we did not want to cross. So the project is really limited to a grade crossing to the north and our territory to the south. So this project, it's been in planning for a number of years. We did apply for an RFAP grant, Rail Freight Assistance Program grant through New Jersey DOT, which I'm sure Bobbin will talk about a little bit later. But we were successful in receiving that grant, and we started construction just a few months ago, and we should be completed by March. So this is a project that at Conrail we've been trying to get done for several years. We're excited to be able to get into construction and hopefully knock it out here before it starts to get warm again. And if you go down to the next slide, Jacob, I just have one shot of construction. Just to get into some details, this right away at one point in time did have 2 tracks. You can see a bridge out into the back of the picture. That bridge has the capacity to hold 2 tracks. Conrail just has not had one on there for decades, I would imagine. I can't tell you the last time there was a track there. So essentially, we're regrading our right of way. We do have plans to install some retaining walls at that bridge, put a new bridge deck in, but essentially we're going to put some turnouts in and build about 5,000 feet of new track. So that project is ongoing. We're making good progress here, and hopefully we can get through the winter without too much delay with weather, but we will see about that. So that is Conrail's barb siding extension. Jacob, you can go to the next slide. So I'm going to jump back to kind of the same picture that I just had up, and I call your attention to the top of the page where you see the new Y track connection. That is at Conrail's CP Ron. So you'll see a blue line that's running up and down the page, north and south, and then another blue line that's running left to right across the page. So CP Ron is an interlocking where Conrail's Garden State secondary crosses its Port Reading secondary. And right now, the Port Reading secondary connects us to our Lehigh line, which is a main trunk line. It's the main line through North Jersey. But as you traverse east on the Port Reading secondary, you can only go north up the Garden State secondary. What this Y track at CP Ron proposes is that we'll make a connection that would allow traffic to come from the Port Reading secondary south down towards the south towards the barb siding extension, which I just talked about. So what that really does is that allows Conrail to take traffic away from Port Newark and our Oak Island yard, which, as I said earlier, is very congested. This project essentially allows us to get south and utilize the Port Reading secondary and take traffic off the Lehigh line and through Oak Island yard. So the Y track and the barb siding really complement one another. Once the barb siding's done, we'll have that capacity to land those trains. And then once the Y track is complete, we will be able to take traffic off the Lehigh line through Oak Island, and we can take that directly down to the sites. So Jacob, you can go to the next slide. So the details of the project, as far as track work goes and track construction, the project is fairly straightforward. It's only about 1,000 foot of track with 2 turnouts. And basically it's just what the railroad calls a Y track. Basically, it's if you looked at a line and you had 2 tracks that curved off to the side, it looked like a Y. So the track work is fairly straightforward. The challenges that exist with this project are real estate and utilities. So Conrail has made a deal with Woodbridge Township. We essentially swapped properties. What you see hashed out in that blue color, that is property that we will secure from Woodbridge Township. There used to be a park there. You see a pool in the photo. That pool has since been demolished and filled in years ago. So that should be secured hopefully within the next couple of months. And then the other challenge is utilities. So there's a Port Reading Avenue, which you can kind of see a bridge going over the railroad that continues off to the right-hand side of the page. That bridge structure used to be at grade just a little bit further to the west or to the left of what we're looking at. And there were several utilities that ran in that street. So all of those utilities now are affected within the scope of the project. And there's probably 5 or 6 utilities that either need to modify their utility or relocate it. So that in itself is a huge undertaking. It's been my experience that utilities always seem to be one of the most difficult parts of any project. So we are continuing to work with those utilities to have their facilities upgraded, relocated, modified to accept the new track construction that we will hopefully get started next year. Again, we were successful in a New Jersey DOT RFAP grant. So again, thanks to Bob and his team. And like I said, our goal is to have this project start and complete in 2025. Jacob, you can go over to the next slide. So our next project that we're going to talk about is what we call the southbound connector. It's kind of hard to see on the photo that I have here. There are some green lines, but essentially this project is in support of the Port Authority and their traffic going into the Express Rail Terminal, or MMR. The Express Rail Terminal is at the south end of Conrail's Port Newark Yard, and it's a intermodal terminal that Conrail supports very heavily. There are 2 tracks that come out of this terminal today, both of them going north, and they dump right into Conrail's Port Newark Yard, which goes directly to that CP Fran area and Oak Island. So all that traffic must go north to get into this port location. What this project proposes is to build a single track connection to the south, which would allow movements to the port from the south. Again, we would utilize that Port Reading secondary track that I had talked about earlier, which takes traffic away from our Lehigh line, which is the main trunk line through North Jersey. So you spread traffic out, you get it out of the congested areas, and we will also be able to spot and pull a train into the intermodal terminal at the same time. So as you're unloading a train, you can also be bringing in or taking out an additional train, which improves the output of the port, allows more traffic to go on rail, takes more trucks off the road. So this is a project that the Port Authority, Express Rail have been looking at for a number of years, and feels like we're starting to get pretty close here. The Port Authority has actually done the design of the Y track that'll come out of Express Rail, and Conrail is designing additional capacity along our Garden State Secondary to help support those trains going south. Today, if we just took a train south and dumped it onto the Garden State Secondary with all the existing traffic, we would create a new congestion problem in that area of our railroad. So what we'd like to do is build some more capacity to be able to land some of these trains, give space to build trains out coming out of Express Rail, while still providing the efficiency and operational flexibility to support the existing freight moves that happen up and down this line. The Garden State Secondary supports many, many different commodities. Obviously intermodal, it supports Port Newark, all the intermodal terminals for the Port Authority. We have a lot of energy customers to the south, and generally all freight traffic going south south of Perth Amboy into the middle part of the state are going down the Garden State Secondary. So there's a lot of traffic that comes through this area. And, what Conrail has to do is think about ways to provide additional capacity to support these moves. So we are working very closely with the Port Authority right now. The Port Authority was able to get some money from DOT through the RFAP process. Conrail has applied for some money of its own to do the capacity improvements along our Garden State Secondary. And we are working, like I said, closely with the Port Authority. We're having bi-weekly meetings to just finalize design issues, discuss the permitting and who's going to take on those tasks to get this project to construction. I would say we'd like to be able to get into construction maybe sometime 2026, but Conrail and the Port Authority will continue to work to reach that goal. So it's a big project. There's a lot of impacts to adjacent property owners. Like I said, they'll be permitting. So there's retaining walls and new track embankment that will be needed. So it will be a significant project for Conrail to get this work done, but it should be a great project for the port, Conrail, and the state. If you go to the next slide, I just have a picture of the port. So that Express Rail Elizabeth, that's the terminal that we're going to try to help out here. So as you can see, the tracks come up and they go to the north towards Oak Island. Essentially, all we're going to do is make a track connection that goes south, which will open things up. It would allow us to take traffic out of Port Newark and utilize our railroad south as a way to get in and out of the port. All right, Jacob, you can go to the next slide. And so, our biggest project that we have going on, the biggest project that Conrail has had since the split, since Little Conrail was formed, is our point-no-point movable bridge replacement project. So I would say at this point, probably 10 years ago, Conrail identified the bridge as needing replacement. We had issues with the substructure, piers moving. We've also had issues having to open and close the bridge for marine traffic and maintaining our signals across the bridge. Essentially, what that means is keeping train traffic moving once the bridge closes and having our signal system confirm that everything is lined up on the rails and it's safe to pass trains. So the decision was made to go ahead and start planning for replacement. There was 5 years of design, real estate acquisitions, utility negotiations, and the project was started in construction in July of 2022. So at this point, we are over 75% complete. All of the pier work is done in the river. 5 of the 7 spans across the Passaic River are installed. We had to construct a new bridge over PATH, the commuter agency in North Jersey. That bridge is substantially complete. All of the substructure work for retaining walls is complete. We're just finishing up one more retaining wall and building the last bits of embankment. So we've been at it for over 2 years now. Our contractor, George Harms, has done a great job. Jacobs Engineer was the engineer of record. They've been involved throughout the whole project, including the design phase. Majeski and Masters, they've done a great job as Conrail's construction manager. And I have to thank, again, DOT. This was another RFAP recipient here, this project. So construction to date has been going very well, but we're about to embark on probably the biggest part of the project. So the new bridge will be a bascule span. The bascule span is being fabricated in Alabama by G&G Steel. And we also have a large flanking span that is being fabricated in Florida Structural Steel. So the existing movable bridge was a swing bridge, which essentially created 2 navigable channels. With our new bridge, the bascule span will operate over one of the navigable channels, providing unlimited vertical clearance, but the other channel will have a limited vertical clearance under that fixed span that's coming out of Florida. So both of those spans are scheduled to arrive in about a month, middle of January, at which point, starting in early February, we will have a 6-month channel closure on the Passaic River where we will construct the new spans, including the bascule span, get the bascule span operational, construct the new railroad tracks over the bridge, and demolish the existing movable span, which will not be able to open once the new bridge is in place. So we have a busy 6 months coming up. Um, just the civil aspects of it itself is going to be a big lift, but also you have to figure for all the electrical, mechanical, all the PLCs have to be dialed in. So there's a lot of work that's going to take place here in the next 7, 8 months to get this bridge operational and in service. So we plan that that 6 month outage should be over at the end of the summer, and we'll only have demolition left to do of the existing structure, and our bridge will be in service. So we have a very exciting 6 months, and it's going to be challenging, but we've had several challenges throughout this project, as all of you, I'm sure, are aware the challenges you experience during a project, and I have no doubt that we will be successful at the end of this year. So we can move forward, Jacob. I have several pictures of Point No Point, and then I have a video at the end as well. So this just shows all the progress that we've made here over the past 2+ years. You can see all the substructure work, all the spans that were installed. You can see that bascule span on the right that's still left to be done, and then that flanking span, span 4, which, as I said, are being barged up from Florida and Alabama and arrive in about a month. We also had to do a bore across the Passaic River for Conrail utilities as well as AT&T. A lot of embankment work, but we've made a lot of progress. You can go ahead, Jacob. So here's a shot of our new bridge. On the left there, you can see the existing Point No Point bridge. On the right, you see the new bridge, which will be a ballasted deck bridge. If you're not aware of what that is in railroad terms, the bridge on the right, the timbers that support the rail are affixed directly to the structure. The new bridge will be flooded with ballast and will essentially act as a track does on land, which makes maintenance much easier for the railroad. It's not specialized equipment or material that's needed, and it lets our maintenance forces perform that work much easier than they would if it was affixed right to the structure. So you can see in this shot, you can see the gap in the bridge. That's where the bascule span will be in span 4, the large flanking span. Jacob, you can go to the next slide. Here's a view from the other side in Newark. So the side we're looking from is in Newark. Across the river is Kearney. To the left is the New Jersey Turnpike. Like I said, this project had many challenges. One of the main challenges that I would like to talk about is you'll see the high tension towers there. Those are Amtrak's. Amtrak had catenary structures and high tension towers on Conrail's P&H line, which is the freight line that Point No Point Bridge is aligned on. The existing towers were in direct conflict with our new alignment. So we had to work very closely with Amtrak to get their towers relocated away from our project. And of course, the way timing worked, we were all out there at the same time trying to construct all this. So there was a ton of coordination between Conrail and Amtrak. As I noted, PATH is within the scope of the project. So Amtrak also had to work with PATH to get over their railroad. At the same time, they're trying to get outages with Conrail. So it was a tall task to get all that work done. But Conrail's engineers and the engineers of Amtrak and PATH did a great job coordinating the work and getting it done safely. So that was a major component of the project, getting those Amtrak lines relocated. I'll just say in this photo, on the bottom side of the picture, you can see the new embankment. All of that embankment had to be surcharged. So we've been installing the surcharge over the past year, putting it in lifts, and we are finally just removing the excess surcharge as we speak right now. So it won't be long until we're building railroad on that new embankment. You can go to the next slide, Jacob. So here's a shot from the Kearney side. In the forefront of the picture, you can see a smaller bridge over PATH that I talked about. You can see their new structure to the right. That's a new substation that they built. That construction was going on the same time ours was. And you can see it in the photo, but they were also installing a new flood wall which was a project driven by Superstorm Sandy that was also going on at the same time as our construction. So between Conrail, Amtrak, and Path, this was a very busy area and still is. But there's been a lot of major infrastructure projects taking place at the same time. So you can see the existing bridge in the photo. Like I said, it was a swing bridge. The bridge is still operational today, can still open for marine traffic, but once we start that 6-month outage, the bridge will physically not be able to open because the new bridge will be in the way. So at the end of that 6 months, our bridge will be complete. There'll be tracks across these spans that you see here, and we'll have to take out that truss structure. So we have a very busy 6 months coming up. You can go to the next slide there, Jacob. So we're still on the Kearney side, kind of looking from the other direction. You can see the bridge over Path, which still has embankment needing to be filled up behind the abutment wall. That was the main point of access into the site, just along that wall. So that's starting to be filled in now as George Harms works their way out of the project site. And you can see on the very right-hand side of the page, there's a large pier there. That's the pier that will support the new bascule span. And I think, Jacob, the next slide is a video. So we've had a photographer come out every month since we started the job. This is the latest and greatest video that he just produced, so it gives you some sense of what we've been doing for a couple of years here. So there's no sound, so I'll narrate a little bit while the video progresses. So I just talked about the embankment needing filled behind that Path bridge. That's what they were just doing there in that photo. And why we decided to build this offline is the P&H tracks use 40+ trains a day. So trying to replace the bridge in the same spot would have been nearly impossible without completely shutting rail traffic down. So that's the reason that we had to build offline. So these are the towers that will support the new bascule span. The trunnion hubs will sit on top of those towers. That's where the whole bridge will pivot off of. So just a quick little video, give you a sense of what we've been doing out there. But like I said, this point-no-point bridge is the largest project that Little Conrail or Conrail has undertaken in the last 25 years. So we've been fortunate, like I said, to get some money through DOT, through the RFAP program. We were also successful in getting a CRISI grant through the FRA. So we're working through the final details of getting that grant secured right now. But overall, the project has moved along at a great pace. Like I said, there's always issues in construction, but the project team has done a great job of working through any issues that we've come up against. And I can't say enough about how well this team has worked together, and we're very excited to get this project done. But that concludes, the projects that Conrail is working on up in North Jersey. Both the ones that we're in construction right now, point-no-point barb siding, and then what we're looking forward to in the future here. So I appreciate everyone's time, and I'll be happy to take any questions that you all have.
All right, thank you, Ryan. We're gonna hold questions till the end, but yeah, your plate's certainly been full. With that, I'm going to now turn it over to Keen for his presentation. The floor is yours, Keen.
Thank you very much. Much like Ryan, we've had a number of infrastructure projects over the last couple of years, and I thought maybe as I was putting this together, there was kind of a theme that runs through all of the projects as we evaluate them on a short line. Just like everywhere else, there's always limited funding, and we need to make some tough decisions, but we're always looking for projects that improve the safety of the railroad. I think it's kind of intuitive that if you take old track and you build new track, you have a safer railroad right there. But we also look at things as elements of the project that maybe make it safer for the crews to work or safer for the community. We're always looking to improve efficiency. That's something I think also Ryan kind of pointed out is that for the most part, we have an infrastructure that peaked in 1917, and it's been 100 years of rationalization, and sometimes we're ended up with yards that are in the wrong place, or built to serve customers that no longer exist. Always seems like we have a facing point switch at a customer that needs to be the first one served on the line. So we're always looking at ways to improve the efficiency, make it safer and easier for the crews to do the work. Another element of all of our projects are sustainability. And we all think about the word sustainability as a kind of an environmental term, is it sustainable? Is it good for the environment? But we also look at projects as whether they're sustainable economically. Are we working on a project that is going to pay benefits for decades, or are we spending a lot of money to fix up a branch where the customer at the end makes plastic grocery bags, right? And probably is not going to be a big customer going forward. So we're looking at that. Next slide, please, Jacob. So quick overview of our railroad. We have 5 short lines here in New Jersey. The Black River and Western, we've been operating since 1965. We got the Belvedere in Delaware there. It runs from Milford up to Phillipsburg in 1995. That was Conrail's Delaware Secondary. The Dover in Delaware is the line we leased from Norfolk Southern. It goes from Phillipsburg up to Washington, Hackettstown, and goes all the way up to Mountain View. And along the way at Chester Junction and Dover Junction, we connect with our own Delaware, Dover and Rockaway, which is the Morris County lines that we operate under contract for Morris County. And we also interchange at Chester Junction with the Morristown and Erie. That's their line in red in the middle. So I think that the last time I was at the TPA was just before we were getting ready to start operating what we call the Delaware and Raritan River, which is the former Southern and Freehold secondaries. This is the Y-shaped railroad here that runs from Red Bank down to Lakewood and Lakehurst with a branch to Toms River, and then from Jamesburg down to Farmingdale. So I have a great team. Catherine Banks is one of my partners from the Maryland and Delaware. Her family has had the Maryland and Delaware for 40 some years. And Catherine and I work very closely with just about every element of the railroad, whether it's operation or financial aspects, legal aspects. And then Sean Dolan came over to us from New Jersey Transit. He was in charge of operations, oversee all the operations on both Newark and Hoboken division. And he happens to live in Farmingdale, and we started construction there in Farmingdale. He called me up and said he'd like to have a railroad job that was a little closer to home, and so he didn't have to commute to Newark at 4 o'clock every morning. So he's been with us for about 15 or 16 months, and he's been a great addition. And, as I get closer to retirement, Catherine and Sean have a great team behind them. So that's where we are and who we are. Next slide, Jacob. So just kind of an overview of some of the projects we've done the last couple of years. Right after we started with we got the DRR. It's a lease from Conrail and New Jersey Transit. There's a lot of participants in that. There was a lot of involvement with DOT and Norfolk Southern and CSX and Conrail, New Jersey Transit to put that project together. But essentially, we have a lease on 2 lines. One is the Southern that runs from Red Bank down to Lakewood and on to Lakehurst. And the other was Conrail's Freehold industrial tract from Jamesburg down to Freehold. And when we looked at these lines and when we started the lease, that red segment in the middle was there, but had not seen a train since the end of the Penn Central. And so it became very clear, given the infrastructure conditions on the Southern and the big customer on that line is down in Lakewood, that north 10 miles of track from Red Bank to Farmingdale had almost no traffic on it, and needed a lot of work. And so what we did, instead of fixing up that 10 miles, putting capital toward that, we looked at and did last year's project. We started in January cutting, I should, 2023, we started in January cutting vegetation. And by September, we had the tracks connected from Freehold to Farmingdale, which was well beyond my expectations, probably anybody's expectations. The before and after pictures on the bottom, there, that picture to the left, that looks like a hayfield, and the picture on the right, which is tracks being constructed, that's the same location. Those pictures were taken just months apart, really. The project worked really well. We had Tracks Unlimited, Railroad Construction, both working on the project. They won different aspects of it, so they were working on the projects at the same time. So we restored 5 miles of dormant track in about 9 months. 5 railroad crossings have been paved over or removed completely. So we have 5 new crossings, but the net result is there's 10 busier crossings that we no longer operate over. So again, it's a safety. If you have fewer railroad crossings, obviously that's safer. Better track, that's safer. Having the 2 lines connected is more efficient for Conrail and for us. We have a single interchange at Jamesburg. It allowed Conrail to stop running a train from Brown's Yard back up to SA, South Amboy, and then down the coastline to Red Bank. All that traffic now comes through Jamesburg. So 1 interchange is more efficient for both of us. New Jersey Transit's happy because that's 1 less train they have to deal with on the coastline. And by having all of the customers on a connected railroad, we're able to give more consistent local service. And the customers have really warmed up to that. We've seen in many places, saw this on the Morris County lines. We saw it on the Norfolk Southern line release, and on this, that just by giving customers more reliable, consistent service, that they will bring their truck traffic back to the rail if they can depend upon it. And we've seen that in all those places. We still have a little bit more to do on this project. Down Lakewood, we have an awkward runaround that is too short for the number of trains, and we have to do a triple, double, sometimes a triple runaround on Cross Street. So we're working. Actually, the RFPs the proposals are due on Thursday for that. Got another 2,000 wood ties to put in on the Freehold side in the early part of 2025. And the grade crossings, I think we've done 26 grade crossing projects since 2022, July of 2022. And we're not far enough along that I can tell you that we're over the hump. So a lot more work to be done there. One of the aspects of this project under the category of sustainability is on that 5 miles we rebuilt, we used 8,500 steel ties, which I'll talk about a little bit more on a later slide. But the only place we didn't use steel ties was in the grade crossings where we needed to have the circuit insulated. And this, I should mention, this top right-hand picture, much kind of similar to the Y that Conrail's putting in at Port Reading Junction, or I mean at where was that? There on the Garden State.
CP Ron there.
CP Ron. Our connection at Farmingdale was to the north, and so while all of our trains wanted to go south to Lakewood, our tracks connected to the north. So as part of the project, we put this southbound Y in. Here we're looking at where it crosses Preventorian Street. We were fortunate in that there had been a previous, I don't know that there was a previous track there, but the right-of-way was there. We had to beat back the utilities a little bit, but they were encroaching, so they were pretty cooperative. And we got this was in service on March 1st last year, this Y here. So we've been operating this over this for about 9 months. So next slide, Jacob, please. This is a project we did in 2021. This is our interchange at Phillipsburg with the Norfolk Southern. We had a track that would hold 17 or 18 cars, and we were consistently going over that, which made for an awkward interchange both for the Norfolk Southern and for us on a track that's on a like a 3 mile curve and a 1.75% grade. So we put in what was a previous westbound main there, you see off to the left, which gave us a 30-car siding. It makes the moves safer for us and for Norfolk Southern. We can come in, they come in, tie down a train on one track, pick up the other train on the other track, and we do just the opposite. And so we're not, engine in the middle, shoving or going around the train a few times on a grade. Part of the safety improvements there was we put in split rail derails at the down side of the yard so that, God forbid, something should get away, it wouldn't go very far. And again, here on the left, you'll see all those ties are steel ties under the category of sustainability. Next slide, please. This is a project we did last year, no, year before that, where we replaced a curve on the Black River and Western. In the slide on the left, you can see two different materials there. In the background, those are steel ties, and then in the foreground, those are composite plastic railroad ties. They come from Evertrack in St. Louis. They're infused with fiberglass, and that actually was used there because it's in a crossing circuit. And so, of course, the plastic insulates, we get a good circuit there. Those Evertrack ties, well, the steel ties with plates, the steel ties don't require plates. So the cost of a steel tie is comparable to a wood tie with 2 double shoulder plates. These composite ties are made of recycled materials, and they're 3 times the cost of either a wood tie or a steel tie. But we're pretty happy with the results so far. And what we're really trying to do here is break what I believe is an unsustainable wood tie cycle. A short line railroad, Black River is 16 miles long. It's got 30,000 cross ties. And if those ties last, it used to last 40 years when there was when they were made out of old oak. You had to replace 2.5% of your ties every year. The length that a wood tie lasts is shorter. The chemicals the treatments are not as good, I don't believe. They get more and more expensive because of the chemicals. And that poses some risk to the people who are working on the track. And so by going to the steel and composite ties, we're looking for longer life cycles. When I started my career, we were buying ties for $15 a piece. And now when we do a project, it's costing us $15 a tie to responsibly dispose of the old cross tie through C&D site or disposal process. So whereas when the steel ties reach the end of their life cycle, we expect somebody will pay us for the scrap value of those, where they can go back to the steel mill and be made into new ties. So this is kind of an aspect of most of our projects where we are looking to make sure that we can get ahead of this wood tie cycle, which is working against us. Next slide, please. This project is our most recent RFAP project. I should mention that the projects we just looked at were mostly RFP projects that we applied for and received funding through Bobbin's department there. This is a project we just finished last week. This was the location where the Pennsylvania Railroad came up from Lambertville, and the Central Railroad of New Jersey came out from Somerville, and they connected here. The picture in the left, you can barely see a white sign in the background. That's where the railroads came together. There was not a lot of interchange ever done here. In fact, the railroads mostly connected just to give the CNJ some more headroom in their yard there. And in 1976, when we got the central branch, or the south branch from the Central Railroad of New Jersey, it kind of took our main track and took it around the reverse side of two turnouts that had been put in the early 20th century. And so there's an example of how we're stuck with infrastructure that's 100 years old in the alignment. And so this track on the left here, you can see pretty much this reached the end of its life cycle. Right at the end of last year, we had a derailment there. It wasn't terrible, but it tore up about 300 feet of track. And so we got this project underway just in time. But on the right there, you can see that what we did was we took the old siding that was off to the left in those trees, and we made that the main track. So now our move through Flemington from the transition from the old Pennsylvania branch to the central branch is now through the straight leg of a turnout. And we chose to upgrade the siding because that had broader curves throughout our, we turned 180 degrees, we turned 90 degrees in one direction and another 45 degrees in the other direction as we transverse the town of Flemington. This also, I think the safety here speaks for itself. Some other things that we do is we have backsaver switch stands for our crews. We clean up the debris whenever we do a project. We put down walking stone for the crews. We've been using these high switch stands for better visibility for the crews to see which way the switches are aligned. And this will make for a more efficient for the trains to pass through this area. This project was largely, except for the timbers for the turnouts, all the rest of the ties here were composite ties. So again, we're thinking that there's a lot of drainage issues in this area. So wood ties don't fare well, it shortens the cycle even more. So these composite ties, we have high hopes for longevity, and that this project will basically hold up for 50 or 100 years, who knows. That's everything on that slide, Jacob. This was a project we did in 2019. This is all the projects in this deck. This is the only project that was not an RFAP project. This is South Main Street over the Dover and Delaware, right at the connection with the Lehigh line. That green building is the old CNJ passenger station. And this bridge prevented us from being able to get plate F traffic. For those of you who don't know, that's 17-foot high boxcars to our customers everywhere on the DD. And so there was a lot of alternatives for this project. But what we did here is we took out the wood ties, put in the steel ties. We put in some lighter rail, which you almost never do in a project. But that got us 6 inches of clearance without having to undercut the bridge. It was very cost effective. Sometimes these improvements with a little imagination don't have to cost a whole lot of money. And we were able to start handling plate F boxcars to our customers everywhere in Warren and Morris and Passaic counties. Very important project to getting the Dover as part of our Dover and Delaware. Makes the whole corridor more efficient. And since I'm talking to a lot of people who are planners, maybe in other aspects other than rail here, this bridge is an orphan bridge that the state of New Jersey is getting ready to rehab. And it's very frustrating because the railroads, Norfolk Southern is the owner of the corridor and us as the operator are being pressured to compromise the clearances here for a road project. And the TPA did a study, which was really that Morris County Rail, Warren Morris Rail study, talks about all of the infrastructure that needs to be upgraded for both 286 and for plate F clearances. And we obviously did a considerable amount of work to clear the line, not only here but up in the Dover area. And and then the same DOT comes to us and wants to restrict the clearances here. So kind of echoing what Ryan was talking about, there always seems to be that the railroad is the last thought, whether it's utilities that are get put in our way or overhead bridges. And so I guess my final message here would be protect the rail corridors, because soon as they have a restriction for height or weight, it really hampers our ability to compete or be effective alternative to trucks. Next slide. So again, this is just the same slide as before. If you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to us. It's maybe a news alert or not, but I will be retiring from Chesapeake and Delaware as president on April 1st, and Catherine will be the president. But I will be around for some time doing infrastructure projects. Bobbin's not going to get rid of me that easily. I guess that is the segue to Bobbin's presentation.
All right. Thank you very much, Keen. Yep. With that, we'll move to Bobbin. Your presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bhavin Kapadia. I work with the Bureau of Aeronautics and Model Grants within the Division of Local Resources and Community Development. I'm the project manager and the lead engineer for the Office of Model Grant. Next slide, please. So our office, Model Grants, is responsible to manage and oversee airport improvement program and the rail freight assistance program, which is these programs are state funded program. Besides these two programs, we're also responsible to manage the CMEC grants, which is a federally funded program. At any given point, our office manage 80 to 90 projects, active projects. Next slide, please. So quick overview about the RFAP program. So the purpose of the RFAP program is to improve the rail infrastructure, rail freight infrastructure in the state of New Jersey by providing the financial support to improve the rail facilities and infrastructure. Now, who's eligible to receive funding under this program? The railroad property owner or the operator of rail freight services or any responsible public agency, the county or the municipalities are eligible to receive funding under this program. Next slide, please. So the total annual budget for the RFAP program is $25 million. This is not a 100% state funded program. The cost breakdown is based on the railroad classification. For class 1 railroad, it's 50-50, and for class 2, it's 70-30, and for class 3 is 90-10, meaning the 90% state share and the 10% grant recipient share. All our projects are with the class 3 railroads. We don't have any projects right now with class 1 or class 2 railroad. Now, for the project eligibility, the project must meet one of the risk criteria. The project that meets significant to port commerce connectivity, the project that eliminates the rail freight missing link to New Jersey's port facility, or any project that's upgrade rail trackage to a 286-pound load carrying capacity, or any project that support a safe, efficient, and effective rail freight system in New Jersey. routine maintenance projects or the planning projects are not eligible under to receive funding under this program. The normal type of projects we do includes the rail rehabilitation or any new construction of rail or railroad bridge rehabilitation, construction of a new railroad bridge, or a design project. That's the type of project normally we fund. Next slide, please. The applicant has to submit a grant application through Sage, which is an online application tool. Applicant can submit a maximum of 2 applications per fiscal year. Next slide, please. So the application is a 2-step process. The first step is the applicant eligibility assessment form, which includes the applicant information, organization information, organization chart, overall map of the rail network, and also the project management system, how they manage the project. That's part of the assessment form. Once it's approved, it's good for 3 years. Applicant doesn't have to submit the form again unless there is a change in the organization. Then we ask applicant to update the information. Second step is the actual application that includes the applicant information, project information, project description, justification for the project, a detailed scope of work, the project location map where the project is being done, railroad class certification, and the project delivery schedule. Next slide, please. So normally we send the letters out, the announcement letters, sometime in mid-July to all the railroad operator and the applicant who has previously submitted the grant application. We also make the announcement on our DOT website page, social media, and also in the public meetings like a New Jersey Railroad Association meeting or the Freight Advisory Committee meeting. We open Sage. We start accepting grant application from mid-August through mid-October, span of 8 weeks. And once we received all the application, the next step is we review the grant application to make sure that it's complete and we have all the necessary documents we need to evaluate the grant application. And if we feel that something's missing or we need more justification or more description, which is not included, or we need a detailed cost estimate, then we reach out to the grant applicant and we ask them to update their application. Once we have all the information in, the next step is we go out, meet all the applicant, look at the existing condition of the proposed project. That happens in November and December, 2 months period. Once we're done with the field inspection, the project selection committee meets sometime in January, I would say mid-January, to evaluate and rank the project. After that, we prepare a spending plan for the program and send it to upper management for the approval. Normally, we announce the grant sometime in mid-March timeframe. Next slide, please. So for 2024, New Jersey DOT awarded 10 grants totaling $29.6 million. These are great projects with great partners. Ryan already went through the Conrail, the Garden State Secondary Improvement Project, and the Roseberry Curve, the Dover, Delaware River. Ken already been go through that project. So this project includes the construction of approximately 18,000 feet of new tracks, approximately 8,000 feet of rail upgrade, and 2 bridge rehabilitation projects. Again, these are great projects with great partners. Next slide, please. So just a quick update on the 2025 Rail Freight Assistance Program. So for 2025, we received 15 grant applications requesting $52.7 million. So we're done reviewing the grant applications. Now we're conducting site visit as per our schedule. We're reaching out to all the applicant, and we're going out look at the existing condition of the project. It's like a pre-selection site visit, and we're hoping to get that done by the end of the month or beginning of January. And once we're done, we'll project selection committee will meet in mid-January to evaluate and review the projects. We're hoping to make the announcement sometime in March. Next slide, please. So this is the Point No Point Bridge. It's currently ongoing project. The project was funded under FY 2021 and 2022 Rail Freight Assistance Program. The total project cost is around $245 million with the state share of $19.3 million. Since for us, it's a two-phase project. Phase one, it's already completed, and like Ryan mentioned in his presentation, that the project is overall project is like 75% completed. This project includes the construction of a new single lift bicycle drawbridge which spans the Passaic River between Newark and Kearney. You can see the picture before and during construction photos. Next slide, please. Nordbergen Serving Yard Track. This project was awarded under FY 2020 Rail Freight 2020 Rail Freight Assistance Program. The total project cost is around $1.46 million with the state share of $1.3 million. This project has been completed and it's closed. The project included the installation of approximately 3,600 feet of new track yard and 2 number 10 turnouts. And the project is located in Bergen County. Next slide, please. There's a freehold and secondary connection project. Keen has just mentioned about the project. This project was awarded under 2021 Rail Freight Assistance Program and 2023 Rail Freight. It's a two-phase project. The project total cost is around $11 million with the state share of $9.73 million. The phase one project is 100% completed and it's closed. And the phase two is around 85% completed. You can see before and after construction photos. Next slide, please. So that's all I have. You can, if you have any questions, you can reach out to us. You can reach out to me or Nabil or Tamer.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Obviously, a very, very important program for our state. I know Morris County has availed itself several of those grants. We're in the Q&A part, so we'll take questions for any of the presenters. Jacob, I know you've been monitoring the chat box. I saw, I think, one about composite ties. Jacob, I'll hand it off to you to moderate the Q&A here.
Yeah. So I think this one is for Keen. What's the lifespan of the composite rail ties? You're muted.
So the answer to that question is we don't really know yet. We put we did a pilot program about 15 years ago with composite ties that were made under a Rutgers patent. They were made in Edison, New Jersey, and those ties, about 25% of them failed in the first year. But actually, the ones that did not fail immediately, I think it was a quality control issue. We have started to, we did some relay on that Flemington project where we reused some of those ties, and they were still look like they did 15 years ago when we put them in. The steel ties we've had in the railroad since December of 2014, so we're just coming up on the 10-year mark on those, and I haven't had a single failure on the steel tie yet. So both of those technologies very promising.
All right, thank you.
All right.
And Ken has raised his hand. Go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, good afternoon. This is for Kane. I noticed a project in Phillipsburg where you put in order to get the plate F cars, box cars in, you were able to gain the 6 inches that you needed. You put some lighter gauge track in. I think you used maybe steel ties, and now there's an issue with a bridge above. And I'm trying to understand DOT and why they're pressuring you. I mean, what you've done is basically opened up a hole, under that bridge, so you can run through box cars that are normal size, that make the companies are servicing at that end of the line more competitive. And I don't understand why DOT is pressuring you to reduce, to undo what you did there. I'm trying to understand the situation because it makes no sense to me. Thank you.
Well, so obviously there are people at the DOT that are very supportive of the rail. Bobbins's group in the multimodal, also the folks in the Bureau of Rail Safety who oversee the railroad crossings and usually work with the railroad when there's any kind of a state project. But on the flip side of that, DOT is largely a road agency, and most of the people there think about things in terms of roads and not in terms of railroad. And I think it's a little bit of left hand, right hand, where there's public policy supporting railroads, but then when it gets time to build the roads or improve the roads, knock the railroad out of the way so we can build our roads. So maybe it's just a little bit of education, maybe a little bit of a broader policy statement on the importance of railroads. But I think that sometimes when we're in road projects, all that we can think about is paving, right? And so I think that's the problem.
Thank you.
All right. And I think Bhavin, you already entered it in the chat box, right?
Yeah. It's not a bike or pedestrian bridge. It's a railroad bridge over the Passaic River.
Okay. Thank you. Now, Ryan, I have a question, and it may seem complicated, but hopefully there is kind of a short answer. But you mentioned all the issues that you have to deal with during construction, but before you even get to construction, how do you prioritize and decide on kind of the sequence of these projects? Because you illustrated as well that a lot of them are connected, right? So it may matter which one you do first, and of course you're also operating a railroad that's running dozens of trains on all these lines every day. So I guess how do you prioritize? How do you decide which project goes to the top of the list?
I would say a lot of it's really driven by our customers. When the status quo changes, I'm sure when I talked about the barb siding, when that barb siding was constructed, it was long enough at some point, and the customer grows, so we have to grow with the customer. And I think, it's like any other business, probably you're going to do what you get the most bang for your buck. So for us, like I said, if we can decongest the areas around Newark and Oak Island Yard, if we can have projects that help us do that to make it more streamlined, that's the type of project that we're going to go for. So it's either going to be something like that, or like I said, customer driven. The southbound connector that I talked about, that's customer driven. And then we do have a steady diet of, bridge replacements that just need to be done because they're at the end of their useful life. But as far as the types of projects that I get into, I would say they're usually driven by the customer. When they need to grow, we need to grow with them.
Okay. So I guess a bit of a follow-up. So for the longest time, and I haven't really heard it recently, but Marion Junction had been on the kind of the priority list.
Sure.
But it's a very kind of, dense location, complicated spot that is it just not feasible to do anything there?
Well,
That
I think anything's feasible. It's just how much money do you want to spend? That project in particular, that involves property, demolishing buildings, building bridges, moving path out of the way, I think. So it's a big hurdle. I mean, it's on our radar. I think it'll always be there. And if there's a real opportunity to get it done, and if there's a real need, then I think we would pursue it. But that project, Jacob, that you're referring to, just for everyone's benefit, we have double track railroad basically across the whole territory, except for this one location at Marion in Jersey City, where it's a single track. And if we could double track that connection, we would have a true double track railroad across our whole territory. But there's a lot of challenges. Like I said, real estate, you're in the middle of Jersey City, likely have to demolish structures, build bridges over city streets. So it would be a very involved project.
Yeah, no, I know it's a very challenging spot. And then one last follow-up, Ryan, is any progress or any way forward or path forward that you see for the Newark to Aldine section of the Lehigh line?
What, for separation, you mean?
No, to add more track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be honest, we've had meetings about that in the past. It's been a long time since we've had a meeting. I think it's something that Conrail is certainly interested in. And we have a really good relationship with New Jersey Transit. So I'm not quite sure, when that happens, if at all, but it's something that we would love to see if we could separate the two operations, the freight and the passenger. But again, you're looking at a significant project there. Probably.
No, I'm just kind of like going through this list that's been
Sure.
been around
I mean, yeah, I
forever.
would, Marion connection, separating the Lehigh line. Those are big jobs that, something's gonna have to change, maybe the status quo, before someone really pursues those projects.
Yeah. All right, thank you. Bhavin, there's a follow-up. Is that project, but I think this is the point bridge, right?
Yeah, that's correct. It's a point bridge.
I don't think that's on the DEP Greenway.
No, it's not. No.
Yeah. And I don't see any other questions, but I do have one. Sorry,
Go ahead, Jacob. What?
Just one question for Keen. So as you've kind of expanded your service territory and made all this investment in the infrastructure to make it more, to make it safer, make it more efficient, and so on, can you kind of, I guess, just talk to the number of customers that you've gained through all this work, and has it really, have you seen the results of expanding the territory and making all these improvements in terms of more and more customers shifting, from truck to rail along these corridors?
Sure. So, I think that one of the anecdotally, when we started on the operating the Morris County lines under contract, and we got ourselves those lines on a scheduled railroad. All of our railroads are scheduled, so I can, without looking at what today's operating plan is, I can tell you what trains are running, which customers are getting served, and we run at a very high adherence to plan. And so that allows our customers to be able to plan their deliveries, understand when they're going to get traffic, maybe when they're going to run a product that requires rail sourced materials, and maybe when they can fill in with trucks in between, whatever, but they can at least plan for it. And us being able to, and really that runs hand in hand with our class 1 partners giving us consistent interchange on days that we talk about before. So whether that's Conrail in Jamesburg or the Norfolk Southern and Phillipsburg or Three Bridges, being able to get the consistent interchange and then consistent deliveries, our customers can plan. In the first 5 years we had the Morris County Road, we had one new customer that we put online, but we increased our business by 32% or something. And a lot of that was customers moving parts of their supply chain that had been moved to truck for reliability and consistency back to the railroad. And so, it's a hard deal to build a new manufacturing facility in New Jersey or put a new rail customer in New Jersey. But it's a whole different thing to be able to take an existing rail customer and have them get 80% or 90% of their raw materials by rail instead of 30 or 40%. And so that's where I think our real success has been. We've got some great projects in the pipeline, but they all take a lot of time. We have a new customer coming on the Black River early in 2025, making diesel emission fluid, the supplement, that you put in your diesel fuel. And that's going to be probably the biggest new customer we've landed in a decade. And we have a robust business of, transloads and team truck business, which covers a lot of mom and pop businesses that rely on the railroad. So I don't know, we probably added in the last 5 years, we probably added 6 new customers, but the big success has been carloads has been, getting the utility up.
Thank you.
All right. I see one hand raised there, right, Jacob?
Yes, yeah, Michael Feason.
Yes, hi, Mike Feason, Norfolk Southern. Hi, Keen. Good to see you again.
How you doing, Mike?
Good. Question for you. The line from Lakehurst to Tom's River, what's the future of that, if at all? And then also, what's the chance of getting the line from Lakehurst to South Jersey and opening up a direct path from North Jersey to South Jersey?
Well, the Tom's River, we would start off as always by, we need to have a customer. We don't have any customers on the Tom's River, so we've talked to the folks at Lakehurst, the joint facilities, Army, Navy, Air Force at Lakehurst, about what it would take to restore the 5 miles from Lakewood to Lakehurst. That railroad is not nearly as far gone as the 5 miles we replaced from Freehold to Farmingdale. So, give me enough money in a year and I'll get that done. When we get farther south, when we go south of Lakewood, of course, that railroad is owned by Clayton. And I guess the real question would be how much rail traffic would move intrastate, a relatively short distance, in direct competition with a great highway that we have here. The New Jersey Turnpike is a great road, and for the railroad, we don't usually do too much in the short haul. So, but if there was a reason, I think it could be. If there was a compelling reason, I think it could be done.
All right. Commissioner, I believe that's all the questions. So again, thank you to the presenters. This was really, really good.
Yeah, thank you very much. Very, very interesting. I always learn a lot on these meetings.